Well, let's talk to the Apprenticeship and Skills Minister, Gillian Keegan, who joins us now. Good to see you this morning. Let's talk about a little bit of clarity on what's going on with travel, please. I mean, what is the latest?
Well, actually, the latest will be set out by the Transport Minister on Thursday, which is when the three-week review comes. But, of course, what we're trying to do is tread this careful balance between opening up travel, but also keeping the country safe. I know there's been a lot of speculation in the press about what the system's going to be, and obviously we've explored many options. But effectively, what we want to do is keep it simple enough for people to really understand and obviously be able to take their own decisions based on the system. So we have the red list countries, the amber list countries and the green list countries. And the amber list countries, if you're double vaccinated, you don't have to self-isolate. And if you're not double vaccinated, then you do on your return. And in all of the systems, obviously, you have to take pre-departure tests and then a test on day 2. And then there's additional tests and additional quarantining, obviously, for red list countries. And you're only supposed to come to red list countries if you're a British citizen or somebody who's got a right to residence here returning home.
OK, so what you seem to be indicating there is that Amber Plus is going, which means by the end of the week, presumably, or the start of next week, France could be back on our travel list.
Well, Amber Plus, there is this one category for France at the moment just because of the concern over the beta variant. But the Transport Secretary's next review, which is the 3-weekly review he does every 3 weeks, that's on Thursday this week. So he'll set out more in terms of what's happening with Amber Plus and also with France in particular.
See, what is confusing is you say that, having a simplified system is better for us because it allows us to make a more informed choice as to what we want to do, which is exactly what the Minister, Matt Warman, said to me yesterday about the idea of having amber watch countries. He said that is providing more information. It gives a direction of travel for people to know what is happening with a particular country that they want to go to, and therefore they can make a better, more informed decision. You seem to be, the government's rowing back on that.
Well, not really. I mean, obviously, we're exploring more options and every option. But the reality is we're trying to tread this careful balance. And it is a careful balance between opening up travel when we know that there are variants and they're popping up in different ways in different countries. And we know, obviously, there's different case rates in different countries as well. So we are trying to be as open as possible to travel, but also to keep people safe. And that is a difficult balance. There's no doubt it's a difficult balance. And we see countries all over the world, actually, putting different countries on various lists as they all try to navigate the balance. But we're very, obviously delighted with our vaccine programme, and we want to make sure that people can benefit from that. But at the same time, we are also concerned about new variants. There's no doubt about that. So we're just trying to make sure that we can navigate that. But it isn't easy to do, and it's not as simple as we'd all like as we're trying to navigate that. But we clearly want to open up travel, but also protect ourselves.
Forgive me. You're quite right, and I'm sure everybody agrees it's not simple and it's not straightforward because nothing has been with this pandemic. But a minister this time yesterday telling me, we needed a watch list because it gives people more clarity. Today you're saying, well, we don't need a watch list because it's all about giving people clarity and ease of choice. No wonder people think this is confusing and chaotic.
Well, maybe they'd better wait till the government actually announces what it's going to do as opposed to the speculation. That's something I would definitely advise. And as I say, the Transport Secretary will be laying out on Thursday. But, there's no doubt that we are exploring all options and getting that balance between, giving people enough notice and warning, but also making it so that it's simple enough is difficult to do. I was out at the weekend and I was asking people just generally, did they understand it? And it is difficult, and people had different interpretations. So, that is a difficult balance. But I think instead of all the speculation, we will lay out very, very clearly. And of course, on every 3 weeks, the Transport Secretary updates us in terms of countries and which countries are on which list.
So this still leaves a possibility then, does it, that a country could switch without any prior warning now, if there's going to be no watch list, could switch from amber to red while you're out there. So still no guarantees of a a safe holiday, if we can put it in those terms?
Well, obviously, the Transport Secretary will be setting out all of, the considerations on Thursday. But, I think there's no doubt that, we know that the pandemic can change. We know that the variants can move. We've actually experienced that twice ourselves. Christmas was, very much curtailed as we dealt with the Alpha variant. And then, obviously, the general restrictions and removal of restrictions was also delayed as we were hit with the Delta variant. So we know that these variants can hit countries, and they can hit them in many ways. What we're really delighted with here is that the vaccine programme looks as though it is providing a lot of protection. The case rates are coming down. We didn't know that was going to be the case when we unlocked 2 weeks ago yesterday a lot more of our economy. But there's no doubt that this is a disease and the variants that, things can change very quickly. We've seen that. We've seen that a number of times ourselves.
Which is why, presumably, the government needs to be absolutely on the ball with this, which raises the question of what's happening at the JBC, the Joint Biosecurity Centre, where the boss, Claire Gardner, left her job without a successor being appointed. Now, that advises, amongst other things, on what to do about travel. She apparently went back in June. Still no appointment to replace her. The JBC's left rudderless, isn't it?
I don't think so. I mean, these things are, as we've seen with many of these committees, these are a group of experts. But it's a group of experts that are looking at data, that are giving their analysis based on the data. So, there's still a team of experts. Of course, we want to replace the chair, but, there are these team of experts that are still looking at the data and giving their analysis based on that.
Talking of confusion, what about the app? I mean, because in terms of U-turns, we're now told that actually the test and trace app and the way people get pinged on it is going to be scaled down, made less sensitive, if you like, which is what the government said it wasn't going to do a couple of weeks ago.
Well, look, everything's evolving. I mean, this is a public health decision, so they've been looking at the cases. We only 2 weeks ago, yesterday, is when we lifted a lot of restrictions in our country as the Delta case rates were still going up. And now we've got a lot more data in, and they're looking at that data all the time. It's not a U-turn. We're dealing with a global pandemic. It is evolving as we get more data. And, of course, the data is looking very favourable at the moment. So Public Health have made that decision. They've decided to remove, to change it from 5 days to 2 days. It's still when it's the most infectious period, the 2 days, but 5 days was, even more cautious. And they have been cautious all along. That's their job, their public health. So, they have to be cautious. But they've now looked at the data and decided now is the time to review that decision. And, it's their decision, and they've given us that information, and that's fantastic news. I mean, every one of us has probably
you can understand
either dreaded
how
the ping or had the ping.
But we know it's only a week on Monday that people aren't going to have to isolate at all in most cases if they're pinged. So why not just bring that forward?
Well, because the whole reason that date was set, which is August the 16th, which was to give us enough time for all of our young people to have the chance to be double vaccinated. That's why that date was set, because it wouldn't be fair to say if you're double vaccinated, you don't need to isolate if you haven't given them the chance to be double vaccinated. So that was a deliberate date. So we're urging everybody, please get the vaccine. And, if you started when you were first offered it, then you could be double jabbed by that date. That is why we chose that date. And it's important that we're fair to young people as well, to give them time to get double vaccinated before we start to have systems which are different for those that are double vaccinated and those that aren't.
And in terms of getting double vaccinated, what about getting vaccination centres onto university campuses that universities are calling for? And we're getting reports there are 170,000 unused doses that could expire soon because there's been this sort of comparatively low uptake amongst the under-30s. That would be a sensible move, wouldn't it?
Well, we're working with universities, and there's a lot of comms going out at the moment to encourage young people to go and get the jab. And actually, the ONS survey did show that many of our young people, 90%, I think, said they were likely or fairly likely to get the jab. But of course, they haven't yet got round to it. We're working with universities to make sure that with the, those comms are, those messages are there, and people are encouraged to take the vaccine as soon as possible. We will also, I mean, in my local area, we are setting up for Freshers Week. We're opening up our vaccination centre, which is very close to the university, for longer hours, so that we can deal with that and encouraging young people who haven't yet been double vaccinated to start the vaccination process. So we will work with universities, and we will do what's sensible. And of course, there are, thousands of free appointments. So anybody listening, if they're up and listening and they haven't had their jab yet, you can very easily get a walk-in now and get your first vaccination. And we would encourage everybody to do that.
OK, I mean, talking about those young people who don't go to university, I know you're unveiling a new scheme to try to help these flexible apprenticeships, but it's £7 million worth of funding. Well, in the great scheme of things, how many people can that actually help?
Well, in the great scheme of things, we actually spend £2.5 billion a year on apprenticeships. But what we're trying to do now is to make apprenticeships more widely available in some sectors where they found it difficult to work with the apprenticeship system, specifically because you have to offer somebody a job for a year, and sometimes they work on contracts or they work on project basis. So particularly with the creative industries, for example, we've been working with them to make sure that they can access apprenticeships. They're really keen to get more apprentices and access a wide, diverse pool of talent all across the country, and this will enable many to do that, and also smaller and medium-sized companies to make it easier to have an apprenticeship that works on a number of different projects across a number of different companies, but still a high-quality training offer.